Going on, family? So for those of you who maybe have had a heart to serve your entire life, you love the idea of helping people, inspiring people, helping people take their lives to the next level, possibly heal and transform as a person. Maybe you wanted to be a life coach at some point in time, or maybe you thought it was a little bit far-fetched or a little far out there in terms of an idea. I'd love to just give you a little bit of information on how I go about the life coaching process. Today, I provide coaching and consulting for leaders in organizations in industry, entertainment, education, and government. I have a certification program that lasts about 6 months where you get to work with me on a one-to-one basis. And I teach you all of my strategies and tools and modalities on how I get my clients results. I'm really excited to embark on that journey for those of you who qualify. So feel free to click the link in the description box and set up a call with me. That way I can give you a little bit more information on that. Take care. Welcome to the Journey Podcast, where we share some of the most inspiring stories on the planet, life lessons and tools that will help you navigate through your own personal journey. On this episode, you will find a segment from my weekly life coaching platform, the Dream Nation Breakfast Club. Feel free to tune in live on Zoom every Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern via dnbreakfastclub.com. I am your host, Josh Valentine. Welcome, everyone. Grand Rising. Excited to be here, as always, with you all. Today's Breakfast Club session is going to be specifically on what to do when you feel like giving up. And I'm sure this is going to hit home for a lot of people because let's be honest, we all have moments in our lives where we get a little discouraged. We have moments of uncertainty. I was listening to a video or watching a video the other day, and it was interesting because this guy was talking about a psychiatrist who he had interviewed, and the psychiatrist said something profound. He said, in life, there are three things that every single human being will inevitably experience. And those three things are pain, uncertainty, and the constant need for work. Pain, uncertainty, and the constant need for work. And it's interesting because no matter what it is that you embark on, when you think about it, pain is inevitable. All of us have that one common thing about our lives is that we have experienced pain, but as you guys oftentimes hear me say, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So here in the Breakfast Club, it's not to eradicate pain from your life, but it's to help you struggle well. It's to help you maneuver through the pain so that you don't have to live in a state of suffering. And then when it comes to uncertainty, one of the things that you guys hear me talk about as well, as it pertains to uncertainty, you hear me cover a lot on basic human needs. And as much as we like certainty and security in our lives, if all of life was just certainty and security, it would not be the life that we absolutely love. We all love a little spontaneity. We all love some variety. We all love a little uncertainty. So uncertainty is a part of the hero's journey. It's a part of the human experience. And then the constant need for work. Nothing wrong with wanting to always excel and grow. I know that the two fundamental spiritual needs of the soul, if you will, are the need for growing and contributing. So we always have this need for wanting to be productive. Some of you guys are hyper productive people as well. So you can most certainly relate to always wanting to work. So today we're going to be covering just what to do when you're at that moment, when you're at the precipice of either moving forward or deciding to throw in the towel and give up altogether. And I'm sure all of you can probably relate to a point in time in your life. Maybe you didn't give up, but you were very, very close to giving up. I know at this stage in my life, the only way to really give up is just to stop doing what I'm doing altogether. And that's essentially the only way I could fail is to just quit altogether. But it's hard to quit on what is your identity. It's hard to quit on what is your life purpose, when you're rooted 100% on what you're here to do, very difficult to quit in that situation. You may have moments of discouragement. You may have moments where you're uncertain, you're a bit fearful, but one thing is for certain is you can very well get to a place where you just have made a decision that no matter how difficult it gets, you will continue to press on. And that's what I want to leave you guys with more than anything by the end of this Breakfast Club session is the mindset of no matter how difficult things get, I'm still going to continue to press on. So shout out to everybody tuning in from different parts of the world. So we got Tel Aviv in the house. Shout out to everybody tuning in on the other side of the pond, all around Europe. And let's get this show on the road. So we have some life hacks and fun facts. In case you don't know, if you're new to the Breakfast Club, by the way, my name is Josh Valentine. I should have said that early on when I first got started with this session. But my name is Josh Valentine. I'm a holistic life coach. And I typically come on here on the internet every single Tuesday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sometimes it may be an hour and a half. Sometimes it's 2 hours, depending on the flow of the content that we're sharing. But for the most part, we're usually getting started right around 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you would like to engage with us live on Tuesdays, I actually can read your comments on Zoom. Hop over to dnbreakfastclub.com. And you obviously have to hop on live in order to engage with me. The first 30 minutes, you're always welcome to ask questions if you have any specific questions. We used to do a lot of shares from our community, but just for the flow of the podcast recording, it's just a lot easier to, essentially take your questions that you guys ask in the comments and answer those questions from there. So see, we got Stuart, Florida in the house. Shout out to everybody tuning in from the South. We got Texas. Awesome. Well, let's get this thing going. The first 30 minutes also, we do share life hacks, fun facts, words of the week, different things like that. Little cheesy, but a lot of people get value from it. And you just never know when you may need to know some of this information. I'm very big on just knowing random things. I think it's super valuable to just know random things. You never know when you have to take it out your back pocket for something. So that's usually what we share here on the Breakfast Club to get us kickstarted and warmed up. The very first fun fact is, did you know sound travels almost 5 times faster underwater than in air? Really interesting. So for those of you who are science nerds like myself, you may find that valuable. But yes, sound travels almost 5 times faster underwater than in air. Next up, we have the term oxymoron is itself an oxymoron because oxy means sharp and moron means dull. So the word in itself is an oxymoron. Doesn't make no sense. One side of the word is sharp, the other is dull. So really interesting. Next up, we have 90 million people. Think about that. Think about how big is 90 million people. That's about a third of the United States of America. 90 million people survive on less than $75 a year. How crazy is that? Right? We're over here stressing about money. Right? In the Western world, we have a tendency to stress about bills, and it's a reality for everyone. Let's be honest. It doesn't matter where you fall on the socioeconomic spectrum. We all have a tendency to stress about money or have money at the forefront of our consciousness. And to think that 90 million, that's an entire country, y'all, like survive on less than $75 a year. How many of you have had days over the last year where you've spent more than $75 in a day, let alone surviving on less than $75 a year? So sometimes it's good to just put things into perspective. And this is a big reason why I always recommend just learning the way the world works, learning about indigenous civilizations as well, learning about like recently, I spent a lot of time watching documentaries on people who live in the desert. I just had this fascination with people living in the desert. I was reading the novel The Alchemist, which is one of my favorite novels to read. And I just was like, it'll be interesting to just know a little bit about the lives of people in the desert. And yes, there are people out there who are indigenous living in just barren land that doesn't really have any kind of agriculture. And with the exception of maybe an oasis they may cross while, you know, trekking along or just walking across the Sahara Desert. But yes, there are people out there who live in this indigenous way. And uh, think about that. How profound that is. That there are people that have no idea even what's going on in modern civilization. There are people that have never seen people outside of their race or their ethnicity, which is interesting as well. You can go to very rural parts of the world and come across people like this. And that's why travel is so incredible, especially if you travel to places that a lot of people typically don't. You can learn so much. And just even studying history, having an understanding for history can help eradicate a lot of the uncertainty that you live with in terms of the state of the world. Because sometimes you can look at what's going on in the world and you can get a little bit doubtful, you can get a little bit cynical or pessimistic, right? And you can adopt this nihilistic way of living where you're just like, what's the point? What's the point of moving forward if everything is going to the shits anyway? But if you truly understand the cycles of history, you could very well see that, oh, this is nowhere near as scary as it probably was during World War One, World War Two, the Civil War, right? And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of catastrophes and genocide and all these things that still exist today, but nowhere near what it was throughout history. And every single generation thought that their generation was the end of times. So history is very cyclical in its nature. And the more of an understanding you have of history, the more peace of mind you have during these unprecedented times. So that's why having an understanding of the way the world works, but also the historical context in which we find ourselves in and the patterns that have resurfaced time and time again throughout the course of history, very important to understand. So next up, we have a life hack, and I thought this was a great one. Need to remember to take something with you when you leave the house in the morning. Put it in your shoe so you can't leave without it. How valuable is that? So if you ever have, let's say you don't want to forget your AirPods that you put in your ear, or you don't want to forget your keys, or you don't want to forget just something that you absolutely need. Put it right by your shoes because you have to put on your shoes in order to leave the house. So this is super valuable. I know one of the things that I had adopted living in New York City, just being on the hustle and bustle, sometimes you're just in and out of your place. And I remember I had this saying, phone, keys, wallet, charger, phone, keys, wallet, charger. And then during COVID, we needed our mask at one point in time. You could not go into any establishment without your mask. And that was the most annoying thing. Can anybody remember that? Remember those moments where you went to an establishment or you probably walked 2 blocks away from your home and then realized that you forgot your mask at home and had to go all the way back home? The most annoying moments. And so I adopted my saying to then saying, phone, keys, wallet, charger, headphones, mask. Phone, keys, wallet, charger, headphones, mask. And you can have just something that you say, or maybe a little pat on the pockets, just to be able to remember certain things when you leave. I'm one of those people, I do not like to go backwards. So if I already left my house, the last thing I want to do is have to circle back around to get something that I forgot. Not sure if any of you can relate to that, but yeah. Okay. Next up, we have, let's see. Oh, well, we're about to jump right into it. Before we do, we have just a few shares, few snippets here for you all. And shout out to everybody tuning in. Always great to be here with you all. Be here with our tribe, our Breakfast Club tribe. I see we have some familiar I don't want to say faces because I can't see your face at the moment. You know, the Breakfast Club, we actually used to have everybody's face on the Breakfast Club. I'd have everybody pull up their videos so that I can see their faces. And just with the changing of times, it just wasn't the most ideal setup. But it's nice to see so many familiar people and familiar attendees, our tribe here on the Breakfast Club, just consistently jumping on year after year. And we've been hosting these Breakfast Club sessions. I started them in person roughly 8 years ago, approximately. And it's just crazy to think that I still have it going after all these years. And doing it virtually is just so much easier than going to a coffee shop every single day to meet with a bunch of people. And I was doing that every single day, but it's provided so many spiritual residuals. You oftentimes hear of financial residuals, but I believe in spiritual residuals. When you live a life of service to other people, it just really it brings so much value, so much benefit to your life long term in so many ways. And that's what it's done for me more than anything, on top of all the other blessings, of course. But yes, whatever it is that you're doing, do your best to just find ways to contribute, find ways to serve people. And one of the best ways you can do it is taking what you learn here on the Breakfast Club and passing on the knowledge to someone who's in need. There are people who are suffering in silence. There are people living lives of quiet desperation. There are people who don't have anyone to talk to or feel like they don't have anyone to talk to. And you can be that person in their lives that can help lead them out of a place of darkness. So that's what it's about. It's not just taking the knowledge for yourself, it's taking the knowledge and spreading it to people who can use it. So here we go. The importance of understanding human behavior is best shown with a metaphor. Imagine someone standing on a riverbank. Suddenly, he cries a cry for help and sees a man drowning. So he leaps in and rescues him. As he's catching his breath, he hears more screams and again jumps into the river, this time rescuing two people. Before he even has a chance to recover, he hears four more people calling for help. The rest of his day is spent pulling person after person from the raging waters. If only he had walked a short distance upriver, he could have discovered who was throwing all those people in the water in the first place. What efforts could you save yourself by addressing problems at their cause instead of their effect? This is really, really good. And this reminds me of the analogy of killing a monster before it grows. Because once it grows, then you're essentially having to deal with a bigger effect, if you will. If the root cause, it has the potential to grow and expand, and oftentimes it does, right? You have to attack whatever it is that's bringing you that pain in your life at its source. So it may very well be, for example, that what's causing you to get depressed, what's causing you to feel terrible throughout the course of the day, it may be just your habit of drinking, for example. Some people don't realize the effect that alcohol has on their mental health and their quality of sleep and the quality of their emotions and all of these things. So alcohol may very well be at the root of a lot of your issues that you're going through. That may be one behavior that you have to alter, that you essentially have to kill off before it consumes your life. For some people, it may also be something as simple as lack of sleep. Oftentimes, we don't really value sleep. In today's modern civilization, we don't value sleep. But you think about our ancestors, they had a much more natural way of sleeping, and their circadian rhythms were more in alignment with the way the earth is. They woke up when the sun came up and they went to bed ultimately when the sun was going down. And these days you have people working graveyard shifts or Some people are just so plugged into screens that they don't really take the time to decompress and get their eyes off of screens and just have a normal routine. So the quality of your sleep could very well be the root cause of a lot of your issues as well. Sometimes it may also just be you being in survival mode and your body is in fight or flight and it's causing a lot of anxiety, it's causing a lot of overwhelm, and you have to attack it at its root. But maybe your body's in survival mode simply because of the way that you breathe, simply because you lack proper self-care, and that may be at the root of it. You haven't been taking care of yourself the way that you should. So all of these things have a potential to create an effect that you ultimately don't want. So you always want to go to the source of your suffering, go to the source of whatever pain that you're encountering in your life. And you're going to hear me talk a lot about just looking at your situation from an outsider's perspective. It can help tremendously. All right. So moving forward, we have once you understand the master system of evaluation, you are better equipped to influence your own behavior and that of others. There is a clear science to the way you evaluate your life's problems and opportunities. Understanding the components of your decision making system can help you not only understand your own behavior, but anticipate what you'll be repelled from and pulled towards. As you'll soon see, there are 5 components that determine how you evaluate anything, from what you should have for dinner to whether or not you should be married. Each one of us has a unique combination of these components, and this is what causes our lives to be equally unique. So it's interesting. We all have our values, right? We all have different things that we value in life, and everybody's different. Everybody's values are different based on their needs, based on perhaps trauma that they encountered. And sometimes your needs change. Sometimes your financial situation changes. Therefore, your needs will change. You may, in one season, lack a lot of certainty and security, but then you get the certainty and security in your life, and now you feel like you lack growth or contribution or variety. So it's so important to analyze just where you are and understand that different seasons sometimes bring different sets of values. But then you could have those universal values that always remain true for you. And that becomes a part of your North Star. That becomes a guiding light in your life to help anchor you back on the right track with whatever it is that you have going on. So we have next up, in dealing with upsets in a relationship, wouldn't it be great to understand people's behavior so you can reconnect with them immediately? In a marriage, it's especially important to see through the day to day stresses so you can nurture the bond that first brought you together. If your spouse is feeling pressure from work and vents frustration, it doesn't mean that your marriage is over. It does indicate that you need to be more attentive and to focus on supporting this person you love. You won't judge the stock market solely on one day when it plunged 30 points. By the same token, you can't judge a person's character on one isolated incident. People are not their behaviors. Understand what drives them, and you will really know them. And this is why oftentimes when I interweave a lot of the topics on the Breakfast Club, I interweave them with basic human needs psychology, because if you can have an understanding of what drives your own human behavior as well as other people's behavior, you can very well go about your relationship in a way that you're more empathetic because you just have an understanding of the human condition, why people do what they do, what makes them tick. And this will be one of the best things that you could do, just even for your own life, is having an understanding of why it is you do what you do. If there's one thing I've learned in seeking out the core beliefs and strategies of today's leaders, it's that superior evaluations create a superior life. For example, those who succeed financially have better ways of evaluating opportunities, risk, and rewards. Although everyone has access to pretty much the same information, it's financial masters' system for deciding what things mean and what they should do that gives them the edge. Those who have lasting relationships are superior in evaluating how to respond to their spouse in stressful situations. Those who are happier have a more effective way of evaluating life's problems. The good news is that you can save yourself years of pain by modeling the strategies of those who are already succeeding. So this is a really good one. And that's ultimately what the Breakfast Club is about, is offering you guys insight on not only what's working in books, but what's just working in general. A lot of these concepts are things that I've put into practice over the course of the years that have brought great results. And I'm a firm believer that there are certain tools, certain strategies, certain modalities that are going to stick for a season. Some things you can try and it may very well work for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, maybe even just a couple of days. But you have to just try the buffet of tools available for you and just see what works for you, because what works for me may not necessarily work for you, but you won't necessarily know what's good for you until you try a few different things. Okay. So last but not least on our shares before we jump into the main topic is develop your heart. Choose one way to build your social and emotional capacity this week. Invite a friend to dinner. Forgive someone. Text or email a friend you haven't heard from lately. This is so important. Who in your life haven't you forgiven if you haven't forgiven people in your life? Like, one of the things that I can tell you that has been super beneficial for me is forgiving every single person in my life who I've needed to forgive. And and again, we don't forgive for other people. We're not necessarily forgiving them for them. We're forgiving for ourselves. We're forgiving for our own mental health, for our own healing. So don't think that for 1 second, if you're battling, for example, if you're battling with the idea of, they don't deserve my forgiveness, understand that forgiveness is an act of compassion toward yourself. It's self-compassion because you're alleviating yourself from the resentment that you have of that person or the memory of that person. So forgive. You don't have to forget because the act of forgetting is an indication that you're not allowing that wisdom to be embedded in your mind. You want to take that wisdom. So it's not forgive and forget. It's forgiving and letting go of the emotions that have been holding you in bondage. And it's from ultimately not releasing whatever it is that you've been holding on to when you think of whatever person in your life that needs to be forgiven. Okay. Ask yourself, who can I connect with this week? Our emotional life is primarily, but not exclusively, developed through our relationships with other people. And this is a big one. And you guys will hear me talk a little bit about this specifically on today's session, is the idea of just connecting with people. Connecting with people is one of the best things that you can do when it comes to your mental health, especially when you're at the brink of just giving up, or you feel down and out, you feel discouraged, you feel beaten down. To touch the soul of another human being is to walk on holy ground. Stephen Covey. I love Stephen Covey's stuff. So moving forward, again, we've got some great value for you all here this morning, and I'm going to pull up our notes. And this is ultimately going to be 10 steps, 10 things that you can do when you feel like giving up. 10 things. So take notes. Again, take notes as if you're going to have to teach this information one day to someone that you care about. And I know that many of you are going to be able to get so much value from this specifically because, again, we all have those moments where we're just discouraged, where life is not going the way that you would like for it to go. And if you all don't mind, if you can just put in the comments, Put in the comments. Let's have a vulnerability moment. And I would like it if you can just put in the comments if life currently isn't going the way you would like it to go. It may be going in the direction, but not necessarily the way you would like for it to go. Drop a Y in the comment thread if that's you. Drop a Y for yes. I'm one of those people. Life is just lifing. And although I know it's going in the direction that I want it to go, it can be painful at times. It can be a little uncertain at times. There can be moments where you just feel beaten down. Can anybody relate? Look at the whys coming in the comments. If that's you, if you've been pursuing a dream, if you've been pursuing something that you really want, maybe you've just been trying your best to get your financial household in order. Maybe you've just been trying your best to be a better parent, to be a better significant other. Maybe you've been trying your best to take care of your health and you just haven't gotten to the place you want to be, or it's just not going the way you planned. Maybe you set some New Year resolutions and you thought that this was the new year, new me kind of vibe. And you find yourself here now going into the second quarter of 2024 and things still haven't been going for you. And maybe you're even at the brink of giving up on your dream, giving up on getting your body back in shape. You've given up on just continuing on with your marriage. You've given up on just being a great parent. You've given up on that job. You've given up on whatever it is that you really wanted for yourself. Now, don't get me wrong. There are going to be moments where it's appropriate to let go of things that no longer serve you. It's not the same as giving up. Giving up and letting go are two completely different things. Don't think for 1 second that if something is not working for you, and perhaps you've really done some inventory of your life, you've really analyzed your life and realized that, you know what? I gave this a shot. I gave this a try, but this really isn't for me. This isn't my calling. It's okay to let go of certain things that no longer serve you. It's okay to even change up what you were dreaming about, because isn't it true that throughout the course of your life, you probably had more than 1 or 2 dreams? All of us have. At one point in your life, you may have wanted to open up a traditional business. I remember I wanted to open up a brick and mortar. Hear me out. There was a point in time in my life where I was literally going to open up an amusement park. I got together with one of my buddies and we were going to invest in this amusement park, millions and millions of dollars. And I let that go. There were points in my life where I was going to open up, I remember, a brick and mortar high-end fashion store in the Bahamas. And I remember just going through with the design of the place. Like, I was in motion. I was getting the sign built and designed to put on the store. I had a storefront, everything that I already had in motion. And that was once something that I had worked on. I remember I was in drop shipping, selling about 1,000 different products, selling home goods, all kinds of stuff, partnering up with big retailers. And I was doing that, and things didn't necessarily, they didn't end the way that I expected. They were still going in a direction of where God wanted me to ultimately be. But understand that you're probably going to have to try a few different things before you find what is your thing, what truly sticks in your life. And that's 100% okay. And don't think because you're letting go of that one dream that you're giving up. I think it's giving up when you know in your heart and your soul that this is what you're meant to do. You know in your heart and soul that this is what God has for you. And you know that you can do it. And in spite of that, you've allowed life to just beat you down to the point where you just give up on it altogether, even though you still want it, even though you may even still need it. but you've allowed life to just knock you down and you stayed down. That's what I want to talk to today. To the person who maybe has gotten knocked down, but you haven't made the decision to stay down. You've gotten knocked down over and over again, and there is some part of you that just says, I have to keep going. I can't stay down. I have to get back up. And this Breakfast Club session is a call to all of you who've been beaten down, including myself, because it gets hard. It gets hard. Life is it's going to push you around. It's going to knock you down over and over again, and you have to make a decision to get back up. When a baby comes into this world, you guys may have heard me mention this before. The baby doesn't come into this world hands wide open. A baby comes into this world with two balled up fists. And it's almost as if God had programmed us to come into this world ready to fight. And my challenge to you is to tap back into that part of you that has the ability to keep fighting, because it's worth it. It's worth it. Understand that this hero's journey that you're embarking on for your own personal legend, whatever it is God called you to do, it requires you to put up a good fight. There's going to be resistance that comes in the way. There's going to be that inner me that's going to try to get in your head and talk you out of it. It's going to try to keep you safe. It's going to put you in survival mode sometimes. There are going to be moments where you have just mental health breakdowns. And I've been there when you're just so defeated and all you can do is just lay down and cry it out, because that's the only thing you have to release the darkness that's inside of you. The part of you that's fearful, the part of you that's doubting, the part of you that's uncertain, the part of you that's losing hope. But one thing that I can tell you, if you have the ability to be fearful, you have the ability to be hopeful. Because if you are fearful, that's a clear indication that you are alive. That's a clear indication that your heart is still beating, that you have that part of you that still has the ability to be hopeful in something. And my call to action for everybody here listening is to get back up. Find that little glimpse of hope. Maybe that was you jumping on the Breakfast Club here this morning. Maybe that was that part of you that said, you know what, let me jump on. It's been a couple of weeks. Let me jump on. Some of you probably has been a couple of months. And there was that part of you, that nudge in your spirit. Maybe you were scrolling on Facebook and you just woke up not feeling so great and a notification popped up or whatever. Maybe something led you here to hear this message. And the message is simply this: get back up, get back in the game. It's not over for you. You still have that spark of hope that's there. But you have to tap into something greater. You have to silence that inner me. You have to silence that frightened part of your personality, that frightened part of your soul, that scared little boy and little girl that's in your mind telling you that you're not enough, telling you that you can't do it. And you have to tap into your soul, because your soul damn sure ain't fearful. Fear comes from the flesh. Doubt, uncertainty comes from the flesh. But you're not your flesh. You're not even your mind. You're a soul with a body and a mind. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. You are a child of God. And there's no part of your soul that's fearful. Your soul is eternal. Your soul is that one divine spark inside of you that is nudging you to your higher self, that is nudging you to your calling. So let's get back up, man. This message is on my soul because yesterday, I go through stuff too. I got a family of 5. I got businesses, I have communities, all of this stuff that sometimes it gets overwhelming. And there are moments where I share here on the Breakfast Club just aspects of my life that I'm going through. And I feel for those of you who are in a space where you just have been feeling defeated, those of you who probably feel so distant from your dream, you feel like it's so far out there. And sometimes you just don't have it in you to push forward. And perhaps some of these 10 steps can help you during those moments where you're discouraged. Maybe you don't have that quit bone inside of you. I don't believe that I truly have a quit bone inside of me. I believe that there are moments where I feel beaten down. I feel like there are moments where I may have lost the battle, but I damn sure won't lose the war. I refuse to lose the war. I'm okay with losing some battles, but I refuse to lose the war. The way you lose the war is by you stopping the fight. That's how you lose the war. It's okay to lose some battles. It's okay to have some down days. It's okay to go through some pain. It's okay to cry it out some days. It's okay where you're not so productive some days, but you reset every single day. You find your way back to the light. And these are going to be 10 ways you can do it. So let's get started. Number 1, take a step back and assess the situation. Take a step back and assess the situation. When you feel like giving up, what's going on? What do you have in your life that you're dealing with right now? So, for example, you may have financial issues and maybe you're having a panic attack. Maybe you're having anxiety. Maybe you're having overwhelm. Maybe you're a little bit depressed. But let's go back to the root cause of it. For every effect starts with a cause. There's no effect without a cause. It's universal law. So what is causing that anxiety? What is causing that overwhelm? What is causing that panic? Many times the emotion that's coming from that, the very way that you feel, and there's a difference between emotion and feeling. Emotion is it's just a natural process. It's what we need as human beings to survive. We need emotion, but your feelings is the way you process your emotions. It's the way you interpret the way things mean to you. When you hear someone say, oh, they were all up in their feelings, what are they talking about? What does it mean to be all up in your feelings? It's the way you're perceiving what you're going through. So when it comes to assessing your situation, it's okay if you feel a little sad, but you don't have to stay there. It's okay to feel a little down and out and defeated, but you don't have to stay there. And don't bottle in these emotions. If you need to cry it out, release, let go. Some of us have unhealed trauma that we're still working out. We have trauma that we're still processing and healing from. And you're not going to heal from that trauma by bottling it all in. You have to properly release it. And that's why crying is so profound. The process of crying and just being in that state of surrender. Have you ever been in a moment in your life where you had no choice but to surrender? Man, it is humbling. It is humbling when all you've got is your belief in God. All you've got is your ability to call on God's help. That's when you know you've exhausted everything and you're at that place of surrender. And there's power in that. There's power in just surrender. When you know that you ain't got it by yourself, but you're not alone. You're not alone. At any point in time, you could always ask for help, even if it's not in the form of a person. So take a step back and assess the situation. What is really going on? Sometimes I have to say, okay, my body's in fight or flight. I'm having this anxiety. I'm having this overwhelm because there's just too much going on right now. There may be a million and one things that you need to take care of. And that's why you're having anxiety, because the brain compartmentalizes things. So sometimes you're on brain overload because you're thinking about all of these things that you have to do. My recommendation, break it down into three things. The three most important things that need to be done, not the things that should be done, the things that need to be done. Break it down into three things. And maybe you could even break it down into three small, easy things. That way, you can start building momentum from there. Because oftentimes what happens is once you start the process of being productive, then you start building up your personal power. You start building up your capacity for taking action. So many times, just find the little things that you can do. Don't think about all of the things that you're up against. Just break it down into three small little things. I know for me, what I've learned about myself, and I'm not sure if any of you can relate to this, maybe for those of you who identify as healthy people or as fit people, I know many times we start to get a little depressed or anxiety or overwhelm and things like that when we don't feel like we're in alignment. When we don't feel like we're in alignment with our identity. So if you're not working out, but you identify as a very healthy person, as a very fit person, or you've been eating like crap, right? Or you've been dancing in the dark, but you want to live a righteous life, and that's what you're committed to, then you're going to go through these emotions because you're not in alignment. And I know for me, oftentimes what sends me on sort of this emotional downward spiral is when I'm not working out, when I go too many days without exercising. Can anybody relate to that? Can anybody relate to just going too many days without exercising and then you start to go on an emotional downward spiral? So how do I find my way back? One of the ways I tap in, spirituality, the very first thing, tap in, ask for help, pray about it, meditate on it. But then from there, I'll go for a walk, build up my momentum, and then I'll get into the gym. Another thing is whenever I'm not dressed my best, whenever I'm not fixing myself up, there's just something about looking your best that permeates just your entire life. Whenever think about it. How how hard is it to have a really, really crappy day, but you look amazing? Usually when you look amazing, you feel amazing. And that's one thing that I discovered as well, is when I need to find my way back to the light, work out. And I work out for two reasons: look good and feel good. Those are the two reasons. So if you got to jump on that treadmill, get those endorphins going. And if you got to get a little pump, right? Ladies, you want to do some squats. Fellas, you want to do some curls, whatever is your thing, but making sure you look good and you feel confident, building up your self-esteem, all of those things. Another thing that I've noticed is my sleep, my self-care, all of those things play a big part. So take that outsider's perspective. In psychology, is referred to as metacognitive awareness, when you can step outside of your thoughts. Don't identify with your thoughts. Step outside of it and just really process what's going on. So these days, as I was on my healing journey, and I'm still on my healing journey from a lot of different things. I don't know of anyone who's not healing from something, but there are times where I'll allow myself to just be alone and process the feelings of sadness, process the feelings of being overwhelmed, process the feelings of even anxiety or anything like that, and just lay there and cry it out if I need to cry it out, or just breathe and ask myself, what's really going on here? What's at the root cause of how I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling? or why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. And that's a big part of it. Having some compassion towards yourself, which I'm going to get into here shortly. Number two is remind yourself of your why. Why is it you're doing what it is that you're doing? So think about what you've been at the brink of giving up on, or what you've been feeling really beat up about or discouraged about. It may be your business. It may be your relationships. It may be your health. And remember your why. Why do you want to be healthy? I had a friend of mine that simply wanted to be healthy because the doctor told him if he didn't get his act together, he wouldn't be able to walk his daughter down the aisle. Doctors sure do have a way of words sometimes. And that was all he needed. And he completely changed his life in that moment. The thought of not being able to walk his daughter down the aisle. Sometimes we've got to leverage pain. Sometimes we have to leverage the fear that we may even be experiencing. Unfortunately, it takes for a lot of people to get to that point before they finally have enough leverage to take action. You don't have to wait until things get so bad in order to start taking action. But remind yourself of your why. Why did you get involved with that business in the first place? Was it financial freedom? Was it time freedom? Was it more significance? Was it you simply wanted to be great? I know for me, a lot of what drove me earlier on in my entrepreneurial career was wanting to be free. I wanted to be free and I wanted to be great. I wanted to be somebody. I didn't want my life to just be about dedicating myself to building other people's dreams. So that drove me for a long period of time. These days, what drives me is raising my children right, is having quality time with my kids. That's what drives me. That's what makes me get up and go hard every single day. Is there are people in my family that are counting on me every single day to show up for them. And sometimes we have to tap into that service. We have to tap into that part of us that may not do it for us. We may not do it for ourselves, but we damn sure will do it for our kids. We damn sure will do it for our spouse. We will do it for the people that we love the most, for our parents, for our nieces, for our nephews, for our godchildren. There are people in your life that you will do it for. And sometimes that's a big part of your why. But you have to find why is it that you do what it is that you do, whether it be business, whether it be your health, whether it be your finances. For some of you, it's to avoid going back to how you felt at one point in time in your life, feeling discouraged, feeling beat down. I know what it's like to not have any money. And I hated that feeling. I despise it. I know hate is a strong word, but if you know, you know. I know what it's like to fill up a gas tank with $3 in change, not dollar bills, in change, because that's all you've got. I've been there. I know what that's like. And it's a horrible feeling. It's a horrible feeling when you don't have it. And sometimes you could even end up feeling like you're a loser because you don't have the means to be able to take care of your family the way that you want to take care of them. Never let a good suffering go to waste. Let it marinate in your soul. The memory of that pain you felt in that season. Allow it to be a never again situation where what drives you is never again in your life having to deal with that. I personally, I resent being in a situation where I feel powerless. I resent when I don't have any confidence. I resent when the moments in my life where I don't like to see other people lose their confidence. It's one of the things that, for me, especially for men who are providing for their families, Not knocking the ladies, but I empathize a lot with the brothers who are doing their best to take care of their families. And I just resent seeing brothers lose their dignity and their pride and their self-esteem, because it's a very low place to be when you feel like a loser and you feel like you 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 haven't been living up to your potential and things just aren't going the way that you want. Let that fuel you. Let that get you going, because sometimes that's what we need to be fueled by. The reward isn't enough. If the reward and the pleasure of the attainment of what it is that we wanted were enough, we'd all be rich, sexy, and famous. Let's be real. It's not enough. The $1 million is not enough. The significance is not enough. Sometimes you have to, as you guys oftentimes hear me say, put yourself in a position where you feel as if you're being hunted. You're being hunted by the pain of going back. That's a big thing for me, going backwards. Or how about the fear of being humiliated? The fear of even being laughed at because you gave up. Let that fuel you and propel you. Number 3, reflect on why you are feeling this way and consider if there are any small steps you can take to move forward. This is a big one. Reflect on why you are feeling this way and consider if there are any small steps you can take to move forward. So, when it comes to the way you are feeling, again, you may very well feel the way that you feel because you see negative $27 in your bank account. And that is very real for you. Not much you can do for being right in that situation. But what if you could just think of a few small steps? What if you can take a few small steps? And shout out to the ladies as well. I know a lot. I love my sisters. I've got a lot of younger sisters, by the way, in case you guys don't know that. I've got many, many younger sisters. And the majority of the people I coach are actually women. So shout out to my women holding it down as well, because one of the things that I say, I just can't conceptualize how a woman provides for her family on her own. It's something that's beyond me, that I don't even want to conceptualize because of the heaviness of it. So I definitely don't want to, you know, not acknowledge our women who are doing their best, because there are a lot of you who feel like you're giving up because you're a woman doing your best to not only be the mom, but also play the role of a dad, which is damn near, it's, I don't want to say impossible, but playing the role of a dad you can never play the role of a dad as like a real dad that's out there, playing that role. It's very difficult to do that. And also being a provider, being a protector, and all of that. Right. And you may be feeling the way that you're feeling because you're overwhelmed. And you're overwhelmed for very valid reasons. If you're a single mom caring for your 2 or 3 kids and you have the world on your shoulders and you have to show up to your one job and then do Instacart or Uber on the side just to make ends meet, right? Like, those are real problems. But what can you do? What are some small steps that you can do to pretty much help you with how you're feeling? It can literally be asking someone for help. It can literally be taking better care of yourself, cultivating some better habits, right? You can't do that. You can't do this life by yourself. There's just no way. And a lot of people just have too much damn pride to go and ask for help. But never allow your loved ones to suffer because of your pride. If you need some help, go out there and ask for it. And maybe that's the small step that you take to help you with what you're currently feeling. And again, many times it's just feeling overwhelmed with so much, and you're not taking care of yourself, and your body is influencing your mind. This is a big, big part of it. So what are some small steps that you can take? For those of you who have just been feeling so defeated, what can you do? Like I mentioned earlier, for me, prayer and meditation always helps. Parenting myself and taking care of my self-care, eating better, it helps. Dressing your best, it helps. It's not going to change the situation, but understand that you are the source of your entire reality. Everything that you are experiencing, it's emanating from you. So your outer world is going to be a direct reflection of your inner world. So take care of the inner me. That's what it's about. Taking care of you, getting you right. Because there is nothing that you can't handle. You have the ability to transform your situation at any point in time. There are ways to tap into a version of yourself that can handle those obstacles, that can handle what it is that you're going. Some of you are far stronger than you even realize. You just don't really reflect on it. But when you take some time to really analyze what you've gone through, where the average person would have folded, but you're still here. Think about it. If I really got you all to share your story here on the Breakfast Club, people would be blown away. People would be blown away by what you've overcome in your life. You're far stronger than you realize. For you to still be kicking and screaming today and go and taking up your cross with dignity and honor and courage and doing the work necessary, showing up to your job, even when you don't feel like being at that job, even when you're tired, even when you just only had 3 hours worth of sleep, even when you're behind on bills, knowing that that job can't even pay what you're behind on, but you're still showing up year after year after year. You're far stronger than you realize. I feel like I'm talking to someone. Number 4, reset yourself with self-care. Reset yourself with self-care. I believe that one of my greatest strengths is I know how to find my way back to the light. And the way that I've always managed to find my way back to the light is simply by taking care of myself first. It's the idea, someone dropped a comment about the oxygen mask on a plane. So it's the same concept. In order for you to take care of someone else, you have to put on the oxygen mask first. It goes on you. You're always instructed to put it on first, even if you're sitting with a toddler. And life works a lot like that. You have to breathe in that life yourself so that you can have the capacity to take care of other people. And the way that you're going to do that is by your self-care, parenting yourself, as you guys oftentimes hear me say. Clean your home. I can't preach this enough. I hate to dad you guys. I'm not trying to be y'all dad or anything like that, but I can't help myself but to be a dad. I have 3 little kids, and I just feel like some of us brothers were born to be a dad. I was just one of those guys that was born and wired to be a dad. And I have to be the one constantly preaching in everybody's heads. Clean up your home. Clean up your home. I'm telling you, a cluttered home is a cluttered mind. A cluttered mind is a cluttered life. A lot of you feel like everything is in chaos, like you have no control. And many times it's because the home that you're walking around. Clean your space. It'll make a drastic improvement on your overall mental health. You're feeling defeated because you're just up against a lot. And living in a cluttered home isn't helping. Taking care of your self-care, it's not helping. So tonight, for those of you who need a reset, go to bed early. I'm telling you, after 10 p.m., do not look at a screen because the screen is going to affect the quality of your sleep. Also, try not to drink fluids an hour before going to bed because if you drink fluids, you're going to end up having to use the bathroom through the night. Now, I know some of you may not have as strong of a bladder as some others, but some of you have to use the bathroom and that's cool, but do your best not to drink not to drink fluids an hour before going to bed. If you can avoid having to go to the bathroom through the night, that would be great. Also, try not to eat at least 2 hours before going to bed. So if you go to bed at 10, do your best to eat your dinner before 8, because your body is having to break down that food while you sleep. So give your body some time to break it down before you finally go to sleep. Also, your environment, make sure you're sleeping in darkness. Don't have the TV playing throughout the course of the night. Don't have a bunch of light. Put yourself in darkness. Have your eyes just be able to tell your body that, okay, it's time for bed. There's no lights. Everything is shut down. That's the way we naturally operate. So all of these aspects of self-care are beneficial. And of course, with your spirituality, taking some time to get grounded with the earth. Take off your shoes. You know, our ancestors spend most of their time putting their feet on the earth, but we don't do that in modern civilization because we're always wearing shoes, always wearing slippers. Go out there and get grounded with the earth. Go step on some grass if you have to. Put your toes in some sand, or just take off your shoes. Like, most of the time, you guys can't see my feet, but I don't have any socks or anything on here, and it's just really good and healthy to ground yourself with the earth. So there's so many things that you can do with your self-care, but one of the things that I oftentimes suggest, and some people may not even look at it as self-care, but I sure do because I know of the benefits of it: personal development, listening to a good audio, garbage in, garbage out, greatness in, greatness out. That's just the way it works. So many times, if you're going through a lot and you're not taking control over your mind and what you focus on, you're naturally going to gravitate towards the things in your life that aren't working so well, because your brain is not designed to keep you happy. Your brain is designed to keep you alive. You have to understand this. So because it's designed to keep you alive, it's designed for survival and reproduction. That's what your brain and body are designed for. It's to expand life, to expand your lineage. So a lot of these fears and anxieties and overwhelm and all these different emotions that you're going through, they're your survival mechanism kicking in. So by you properly taking care of your body, you put yourself back in homeostasis. You go from a sympathetic nervous state to a parasympathetic nervous state where your body's like, okay, I'm good. Sometimes just breathing exercises can be one of the things that you can do with your self-care. Many of you hear me talk about the 4-count breath, and that's 4 seconds with your breath. So you inhale for 4 seconds, you hold your breath on full lungs for 4 seconds, you exhale for 4 seconds, and then you hold on empty lungs for 4 seconds. And you do this 4 times. I call it the 4-count breath. And this will help just get your body back relaxed. It'll help you get back into homeostasis and back to a parasympathetic nervous state where you're not in fight or flight mode, which eventually leads to anxiety and overwhelm. Okay, so when you're wanting to give up, again, it's because it's just life is beating you down and you have to use all that you've got to find your way back to the light. Number 5, reach out to supportive friends or family members for encouragement. This is a big one. Reach out to supportive friends or family members for encouragement. I recently had a moment where I was going through a lot, and all I could do was just lay down and let the emotions just wash over me. And I had a friend that had called me randomly. It was like God just sent, and you know what's crazy? I asked God in that moment to just help me process what I was going through, right? And we all like handle emotions different. Some people will consume themselves in alcohol or drugs, or they'll go out and retail therapy. For me, I just let it wash over. So most people will have Band-Aids that are like temporary. They're temporary Band-Aids on gaping wounds, and they only work short term. And then you end up feeling worse, and it goes on a downward spiral. One of the things that I've learned to do is just allow my emotions to happen. And sometimes I just ask God for help. And I had a moment where I asked God for help, and immediately I get a phone call from a friend. And that's what I needed to get myself out of it, to snap out of it. Just talking to someone. Sometimes what helps as well, honestly, is talking to people who also have their challenges. Sometimes you just need a perspective. Like when I'm talking about business challenges, for example, and there are times where I may be going through business challenges and I'll talk to my friends. Like one of my best friends, he has a trucking business, and I, for whatever reason, talking to him always helps me snap out of what I'm complaining about because his problems are just so much greater. His overhead expenses and what he's typically up to on a day-to-day basis is so far greater than my business challenges. And it always gives me that perspective. So sometimes just that fellowship, like for example, every single week I connect with the business leaders in my church, and these business leaders, we have this gathering. It's like a fellowship, and people are just praying for each other. They're talking about some of the challenges that they're going through with family life and business and all of that, and it's so therapeutic to be able to just talk about issues and talk to people about their problems and what they have going on. And oftentimes, what that'll lead to is you have this inherent need to also help people. We all have that. You ever are talking to someone about about your problems, and then it goes to their problems, and now you're giving them advice and doing your best to help them with what they have going on. We all have that intrinsic need to help people, and there are people who genuinely want to help you, who want to encourage you, who want to build you up. And this is one of the things that have been recently most beneficial for me, is just calling a friend, because although you guys see, for example, me here talking on the Breakfast Club every single week, I'm a lot more introverted than people realize. I don't, I'm one of those guys that I can be in bliss just by myself every single day, not really needing anyone to talk to, anything like that. But whenever I'm down and out emotionally and just, going through difficult things, having someone to talk to is just so beneficial. Just having someone that the process is like therapy. Why does therapy work? Because you're expressing what it is that you're going through. You're getting those issues outside of you. Everything that you're going through internally, you're getting it outside of you and getting an outsider's perspective. And sometimes you're just one perspective away from alleviating you from that pain that you're experiencing. Number 6, remember that setbacks are a natural part of any journey. This is more of a perspective step. So sometimes, again, you're just one perspective away from changing your situation. So when you reflect on this, right? Think about anybody that has gone through something very difficult. Think of any person that has done anything great, any person that has done anything legendary. They've all gone through setbacks. They've all gone through obstacles. They've all gone through challenges. In fact, I believe that this natural pattern is embedded in the very fabric of the human experience. It's referred to as the hero's journey. If you ever study Joseph Campbell's work on the hero's journey, you guys can look it up online. It's the way all cinema is created in Hollywood. A lot of these frameworks that are created, great stories, all follow the same framework. You start out in this very ordinary world, maybe living in the status quo, maybe not living up to your potential. Things are safe, things are comfortable. And then you get a call to adventure, and you embark on this world that's an extraordinary world, this call to adventure that is going to involve a lot of obstacles along the way, a lot of dragons that you have to slay, a lot of giants that you have to bring down and defeat. And for some people, they embark on this hero's journey and then they revert back. They give up. It's too much. They haven't built up the capacity to be able to handle these things. So you need some allies along the way. You need to fortify yourself. Your mental callus, your emotional callus has to be built up and fortified so that you do have the capacity to continue on and press on, because there will be allies along the way. How do I know? It's a part of the pattern. It's a part of that hero's journey. Allies will come along the way. These guardian angels, if you will come to support you. The universe is always conspiring to fulfill your desires. It's always doing its work to work on your behalf, especially if what you want is in alignment with what God wants for you. Everything is working itself out. But setbacks and obstacles are a natural part of the journey. There's no getting around it. And you have to make a decision that you will be amongst those who actually continue to persist on, who got knocked down time and time again and continue to get back up. Sometimes I just think that God is like, he's in it for the drama of it all. He just knows that you're going to be all right, but he wants to add a little suspense, a little drama. and I know this is a little sensitive for some people, because for some, you've gone through some very difficult things, some very difficult obstacles, some very difficult setbacks. But would you really take back those challenges? Some of you may say, yeah, but the majority of you won't, because you know at a deeper level, it's built your character. You know at a deeper level, it's brought you wisdom. You know at a deeper level, it's allowed you to appreciate the journey even more because of what you've gone through, that contrast. It's interesting how life works in that way. In order for us to truly have joy, we need to know suffering. In order for us to truly have gratitude, is because we've gone through the flame, we've gone through very difficult circumstances. In order for us to truly appreciate victory, we have to know what it's like to lose. This is the third dimensional human reality that we live in. It's just the way it is. So embracing the fact that it's going to be hard. You know what helped me a lot along the way? Honestly, just following like the stories from biographies, reading on influential people. Yeah, biographies on everybody. Even this right here is a biography on Oppenheimer. This dude created the atomic bomb, and as catastrophic as that was throughout humanity, for me, learning about other people's hero's journey and the things that they had to overcome and go through to end up with the result that they wanted, there's something liberating in that, because wisdom is also accumulated in a sense. Wisdom is, I believe, the application of knowledge. So you can learn these things, but sometimes you have to put them into effect. You have to apply them to your own life. And that's where wisdom truly happens. So you can get the knowledge from a book, but the wisdom comes from the experience. So understanding and embracing the fact that you will have to go through setbacks. And the bigger the dream, the bigger the setbacks, the bigger the obstacles, the bigger the giants. Number 7, break your goals into smaller, manageable tasks and celebrate your progress along the way. Break your goals into smaller, manageable tasks and celebrate your progress along the way. This is a big part of it. So whatever goal you have, always break it down into small micro goals. I always believe in the process of micro goals, or some of you may know of them as SMART goals. SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, results-oriented, and time-sensitive. There are a few variations to it, but that's the one that I go with. And it's essentially, they're small goals that you can actually accomplish. I always say between anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, you can accomplish these things. Small micro goals. Sometimes we get overwhelmed by the bigger vision, by the bigger goal. But if you break it down into small bite-sized goals, you'll end up discovering that it's not as overwhelming. And then celebrate your progress along the way. Don't just accomplish these things, treat yourself. Maybe you want to take yourself out to dinner or to a movie. or maybe buy something for yourself that you've always wanted. Celebrate your progress along the way. That's a big part of it, because you're telling your brain that it's incentivized, right? You are going to be incentivized by accomplishing these things. So your brain is automatically tying achievement with a reward. So you want to ultimately stack a reward with the things that you're pushing for, and celebrate yourself along the way. That way you constantly have that incentive. It's that carrot and stick approach, if you will. Number 8, this is a big one. If needed, seek professional help or guidance to navigate through challenges. If you need therapy, get therapy. There's so many apps and websites these days that can link you with a therapist. Therapy is a lot more normalized today, which I'm happy about, because people genuinely need it. We all need something to help with our mental health. Back in the day, if you mentioned you were going to a therapist, people thought something was wrong with you. But fortunately, one of the good things we have going on in today's generation is it's becoming more socially accepted and normalized. It's not as much of a taboo, which is a beautiful thing. You also have alternatives like life coaches. It's the work that I specifically do. This is a big reason why I even offer complimentary coaching sessions to our community during my Breakfast Club sessions, because I know that there are people out there that probably don't have the financial means to be able to afford therapy or coaching. So that's the route they go. Some of you may have a really, really good church or synagogue or mosque that offers these counseling sessions as well. So there are a lot of institutions that offer these where it's not going to break the bank. So find your way, get resourceful with seeking out that help. That professional help can go a long way, and it can help you process a lot of your feelings and what you're going through. A lot of that unhealed trauma that you probably have from childhood. Seeking that professional help can be the one thing that helps you process it in a way where it's not detrimental to your overall well-being. Next up, we have number 9, be kind to yourself. And remember that perseverance oftentimes leads to success. I like the first part, be kind to yourself. Compassion goes a long way. We oftentimes look at kindness as an act of being kind to other people, but we rarely look at kindness as something that we express internally. Just genuinely being kind to yourself. And if you can't really wrap your head around being kind to yourself or what that even looks like, imagine you having an inner child, a little boy or a little girl that dwells within you. And if you can't be kind to yourself, think about being kind to that inner child. Think about being kind to that terrified little boy or that frightened little boy or little girl that dwells within you. Be kind to him, be kind to her. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace knowing that you're just having a human experience. This is a big part of life. Remember, there are 3 things that life is ultimately going to bring all of us: pain, uncertainty, and the constant need for work. Don't ask me why it was designed this way. We can get very philosophical with it, but this is just the way it is. I can guarantee that all of you have experienced that at some point in time in your life. You feel like you always need to work, or you feel a sense of pain or a sense of uncertainty. And there's an inner child that dwells within you that has taken on a lot of trauma, whether it be the big T trauma or the little t trauma. Doesn't always have to be something catastrophic. It doesn't always have to be something super devastating. Sometimes it's what your parents said to you. And whether you believe it or not, the facts are the facts. There are a lot of people that get wounded from something that an adult said to them when they were 9 years old, 8 years old, that they still haven't healed from. So having compassion towards that inner child, because that's the part of you that is not able to fully process what you're going through in a conducive way to your wellness in a way that's conducive for your overall wellness, if that makes sense. So the way that you process these emotions, remember, everybody processes their emotions in very different ways. And a lot of the way many people process their emotions, a lot of the way they process it is due to what they went through when they were children. So have compassion towards that inner child, that part of you that you need to reconnect with. That's why it's important to spend time alone, spend time with yourself. Stop trying to mask the pain with all these things. There are so many people that are masking the pain of what they're going through by overwork. So if you find yourself being a workaholic, many workaholics, you can trace back that tendency of being a workaholic to trauma. A lot of people never look at it like that. Even people who are very success driven, you can tie it back to trauma. People who just handle certain, maybe they get triggered because someone touches on a deep wound and they get triggered by something. It's again, unhealed trauma. So having compassion towards yourself and allowing yourself to spend time with your emotions. Some people are so fearful of just being alone and dealing with themselves. Is one of the hardest things to do. Genuinely spend time by yourself processing your emotions as an adult, because maybe you went through some abandonment and neglect as a child. Maybe you got abandoned by that parent, that loved one. Maybe you got left at the windowsill saying that they were going to take you out and they never came to take you out as a child. We've all gone through situations like this. And that's why, unfortunately, for many people, it's very difficult being alone because they fear abandonment. Many people get caught up in toxic relationships because of the fear of abandonment. They'd rather settle for the devil they know than the devil they don't. It's so much more comfortable with the familiar, because at least with the familiar, you know that even though it's painful, you're probably not going to die. Even though it's painful, it's better than the unknown, because the unknown is uncertain. And for a lot of people, being uncertain is very scary. You don't know what's on the other side, but you won't know until you embark on that journey. So once again, being kind to yourself and then understanding that what you're going through, some of your darkest moments are exactly what leads to your success in life. It happened for every successful person. It's just, again, it's just a part of that hero's journey. Last but not least, and this is a big one. You guys heard me touch a little bit on this earlier. Ask God for help. Simple as that. Ask God for help. I know we have people who probably are not there spiritually yet on their journey. But one thing that I can tell you is it works. It works. I know if there's anything that I know for certain is the moments I've asked God for help. And sometimes it's not like God being this grand genie that just gives you everything that you want, but God will give you what you need. And sometimes it's that encouragement. Sometimes prayer is honestly, it's for you to ultimately be the person you need to be. It's to bring you at peace. It's to magnify that spark of hope. Maybe you feel like you've lost hope, and now you're in a state of surrender where you have to go to God about it. And now you have to pray about it. You have to ask for help. And it simply has worked. That's why I mention it. Many people, when we oftentimes talk about personal development, you'll hear many people just not talk about spirituality, not talk about God. But the reason why I do is because at my lowest points, when I had nothing else to count on, I could always count on God. And he has always pulled me through. And he will pull you through as well. Don't live a life without God. I'm telling you, it's an empty life. You can have so much encouragement and exactly what it is that you need if you genuinely ask for help. That help may come from a phone call like it did for me. That help may be having a little bit more help and encouragement. That help may be a random opportunity that comes your way. There are times that I've asked for help financially and literally had business come out of nowhere, just by me asking. I remember one of my businesses required me bringing in new prospects. And whenever I went through months of not bringing in any new prospects, every single time I asked God for help, he would send it my way. And it simply has worked. And if I didn't get it, oftentimes I ended up getting it at the right time, which was not my time, or I got something even better. That's just the way it worked out. You guys hear me mention on almost all of my Breakfast Clubs at this point, God answers prayers in 3 ways. Yes, not now, or I've got something even better. So when you hear people say, wait on God, what does that even mean? Maybe you said, you know what? This path isn't right for me. This opportunity isn't right for me. This person isn't right for me. And you decide to go into a season of letting go what no longer serves you. And maybe you waiting on God is by you releasing what it is that you need to release, and ultimately finding yourself in a place of peace where you can just pray and meditate about what God is trying to bring into your life. And I'm a firm believer that it'll come in so many ways. Sometimes it may be in a thought. Sometimes it may be a hunch. It may be in a feeling. You see, we oftentimes limit God by him communicating to us through just a scripture or maybe a download or something like that. But we fail to realize that God can communicate to us in any way he pleases. It's God. It's the creator of everything. So if God wants to communicate to you through a synchronicity throughout the day, whether that be a butterfly or a feather or a number or a whisper on the wind or another person that just you randomly meet, how many of you have had moments like that in your life where someone just came out of nowhere and told you something that you needed to hear? How many of you, for those who don't believe in this, put a comment if this has happened to you in your life. If God had sent you somebody, something, some thought, some feeling, some experience in your life to help you get through what you were going through. Share it for those who don't believe in it. I'm telling you, it just works. It's just what it is. And sometimes you have to get to a place of surrender, but it doesn't have to be like that. It doesn't have to be you being down and out with nothing else to offer, nothing else to give. You could very well change your circumstances no matter where you are. If you've gotten knocked down, if you feel defeated, if you feel picked on, if you feel like life is just getting the best of you, some of you know what it's like to even feel like you don't even want to live anymore. You don't know darkness until you've been to that place. But you've gotten through every single thing that you've gone through. What makes you think you won't get through this? What makes you think you won't get through this circumstance? For those of you who are at the brink of giving up on your dreams, giving up on whatever it is, hell, even feeling like you're giving up on life, understand that you still have a beating heart in your chest. You still have air in your lungs. Most of us have 2 feet to walk on, even if you ain't got no feet. Like, you still have that capacity to be able to change your circumstances. You are a child of God. And until you fully acknowledge that and accept that and embrace that and own that, your life will not change. You have to acknowledge the fact that you have a God that dwells within you. That's what has to fuel your life. Pick yourself back up. I know it's been tough. It's been tough for all of us. Everybody's going through something. Everybody's mourning. Everybody's grieving. Everybody's going through financial challenges. Everybody's got something. And when I say everybody, I don't mean every single person. I'm talking about the masses. The masses. We all have our challenges. No one's exempt from this. But we have a moral obligation to pick ourselves back up, get back in the game, take up your cross, and help somebody take up theirs. Because some people are just down and out. There's so many people out there that are far worse off than you. And you have the ability to extend that compassion to them. If you don't even have the ability to pick yourself up, find somebody else who you can help. And I promise you, you'll find your way through that. That's what this process is about. My hope is that for those of you who've been down and out and discouraged, is you have certain things that can be an anchor for you to find your way back to the light. And as I shared earlier, my things have simply been going to my creator and asking for the help. Secondly, taking care of my body. Because yes, you are a spirit with a body, but your body plays a big part of your human experience. You need motivation. You need your emotions to get through life. Emotions are energy in motion. So sometimes you got to get your body going. You have to take care of your mind. Your mind is like a fertile garden, but it can grow weeds. And those weeds can overtake that garden and poison that garden. So you have to be very, very mindful of what you are consuming, what you are allowing to enter your mind. You have to act as if there's a little guard at the doorway of your mind, protecting it from the negativity of this world. The negativity of the gossip, the negativity of the complaining of other people, the negativity of all the news and the media outlets and all these things that are exploiting your fear, that are exploiting your insecurities, because that's what's really happening. You think about how a capitalist society thrives. A lot of products are sold because they're things that we're insecure about or fearful about. This is what drives the marketplace. But if you're not aware of this, it can consume you. So you have to protect your mind. You have to take care of your body. Peace of mind has to be protected. You have to make sure that you are engineering your environment for success. You are living in a winner's world. The world that you have constructed for yourself inside of your home and the environments that you frequent is engineered in such a way that it's optimal for your well-being. It's optimal for your happiness. It's optimal for your success. So take all of these things into consideration and just know when it's all said and done, no matter what it is that you're going through, this too shall pass. Everything has. Change is inevitable. No matter how difficult the circumstances are, you will get through it and take it day by day. Do not be anxious for tomorrow will take care of itself, said a great teacher. So if all you got in you today is just to acknowledge the fact that, you know what, let me just focus on today. Let me live in the present moment. Let me just win the day. And if I could win the day, that's all that matters, because when it's all said and done, all we've got is the present. Your mind is wired to constantly live in the future or dwell about the past. That's the way it is. Most of our suffering is a result of not being able to fully live in the present moment. When you can truly learn how to be present, not getting anxious for the future or having resentment or bitterness about the past, but truly living in the present moment, taking it moment by moment, day by day, you will find that you can navigate through what it is that you're going through. And do not suffer in silence. Go out there, find people to talk to, find the tribe, create your tribe. Doesn't have to be your family, doesn't have to be your close friends sometimes. You can create a tribe of people that you can count on. Do not go through life by yourself. Do not suffer in silence. Do not live a life of quiet desperation. It's one of the worst things that you can do. But when you can find people that you can vent to, right? When you can have a connection with God, when you can take care of yourself and do the work to get better, because we're all just trying to get better from something, and find somebody who you can pay it forward to help them with what they're going through. And you will find your way. I'm telling you, do not give up. If this message was for anyone, it was for the person who's just been really defeated. And maybe you're like me and you genuinely know you ain't got that quit bone inside of you. You may be beaten down. You may be a little defeated. You may be a little uncertain. Hell, you may be a little fearful. But you know that there's that part of you that just won't give up. There's that part of you that just refuses to back down. You may get down from time to time, but don't stay down. You may get knocked down, bullied, pushed around, all of that stuff, but you fight back because that's what you were born to do. Coming out the womb with 2 fists, ready to take on the world. You were born a winner, the lone survivor over 500 million sperm cell, and you were the one to survive. You were born to fight. You were born to come into this world and go through it, and it's a beautiful thing. It doesn't always have to be doom and gloom. The other side is around the corner. And if you just continue to press on and you continue to persevere, eventually you'll get there and you'll have an appreciation for those dark moments of your life. You'll have an appreciation for the setbacks, for the obstacles, for all the challenges that you had to overcome. One day it'll all make sense. And you can sit there with a smile on your face, thanking God for even bringing those challenges to you, because if it weren't for those challenges, you would not have a story to tell. And my challenge to you is continue to press on so that one day you can tell the story, to inspire somebody who's also going through what you're going through right now, to pay it forward, to leave back a legacy that can truly be a blessing to those after you. Ladies and gentlemen, breakfast is served. God bless every last one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you got value from this, like, comment, share, tag, all that good stuff, hop over to the podcast, show some love on there as well. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all of those who share stars on my social media, on my Facebook. You gift stars. I appreciate all of you guys. Those who support my Patreon, my IG subscription, all of that. I could not do the work that I do if it weren't for you. And I truly appreciate that. And for those of you who've been wanting to book a private coaching session with me, complimentary, I'll drop my Calendly link over on my Facebook. Hop over to the comments. You'll find it on there. And feel free to book a session with me, especially if you haven't booked a session with me over the last 6 months. So other than that, you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Let's continue to press on. Let's continue to support each other and encourage one another. And I'll be seeing you next Tuesday. Take care. God bless. Breakfast is served. Thanks again for tuning into this episode. It would mean the world to me if you can follow, subscribe, share, or even leave a review. I look forward to putting out more content, and we'll see you on another episode.